is Catherine's Book Club. If you are joining us for the second or third time, welcome. If you're new, welcome also. Thank you to several people for subscribing in the last few weeks. Vernon Insane and Justina Revolution are both good friends, so thank you for your joins. And also Deirdre Moore, Braco 1969, and Almighty Meatwad, excellent referential name. Welcome to Catherine's Book Club. So, we are currently reading Bram Stoker's Dracula, and we are midway through chapter 1. This will be our third time working on this story. If you missed the first 2 episodes of this series, you will not find them on my Twitch stream because I am a new channel and I don't have saved videos, unfortunately, but my YouTube channel is linked from my profile. If you go to my YouTube channel, you will see episodes 1 and 2 there. Okay, so in the last 2 episodes, we were following the character Jonathan Harker on his, excuse me, my cat's knocked something over. We're following the character Jonathan Harker on his journey east from London to Transylvania, where he will meet with a mysterious client who, as far as he knows, is perfectly human. This wealthy and mysterious customer is called Count Dracula. Jonathan Harker has traveled through unfamiliar countryside. He has talked about all of the strange people that he saw, and he has come to an inn, to a small hotel, and he has gotten a letter from his friend Count Dracula. And what that letter says is, "My friend, welcome to the Carpathians. I am anxiously expecting you. Sleep well tonight." Okay, and Count Dracula is going to see Jonathan Harker when he comes to his castle tomorrow. So, we are going to read a little bit more of this chapter today, and then we will talk about each paragraph as we get there. Okay, so we will read paragraph by paragraph and discuss the vocabulary and references in those paragraphs. Sorry that I started a little bit late today, by the way. We were having some technical trouble, but I hope that it's been fixed. All right, 4th May. I found that my landlord had got a letter from the Count, directing him to secure the best place on the coach for me. But on making inquiries as to details, he seemed somewhat reticent and pretended that he could not understand my German. Okay, so Jonathan Harker is staying in an inn. So the landlord in this case is the owner of the inn where he is staying. And Count Dracula sent a letter to the landlord telling him to secure the best place on the coach for Jonathan. And the coach is the carriage. This was a diligence coach, specifically, which is a regular travel method that people would take from small town to small town. Count Dracula sent a letter to the owner of the inn saying, "You find the best place for my guest." And Jonathan Harker, he tried to ask some questions, right? So inquiries are questions. To inquire is to ask a question. So Jonathan asked some details. The host, which is he, sorry, my right now. What's going on? I'm having the worst trouble with everything today. Let's close Task Manager. Huh. This is looking very poor right now. Okay. The landlord seemed reticent. If you're reticent, you are shy. You don't want to talk. So the landlord was reluctant, or he was shy, to say anything at all about Count Dracula, and pretended that he could not understand my German. Jonathan Harker is English, and English is his native language, but he does speak a little bit of German, and Jonathan has been speaking in German to everyone in this country because he does not speak any other local languages. But the landlord does not want to talk about Count Dracula, so he just pretends he can't understand. Moving on. Okay, what is happening here? So this could not be true, because up to then he had understood it perfectly. At least he answered my questions exactly as if he did. So Jonathan knows that his German is fine, so it seems that the man at the hotel just does not want to answer any questions about Count Dracula. Okay. So he and his wife, the old lady who had received me, looked at each other in a frightened sort of way. He mumbled out that the money had been sent in a letter, and that was all he knew. When I asked him if he knew Count Dracula and could tell me anything of his castle, both he and his wife crossed themselves and, saying that they knew nothing at all, simply refused to speak further. It was so near the time of starting that I had no time to ask anyone else, for it was all very mysterious and not by any means comforting. Okay, so we have got he and his wife. He is the landlord we were talking about in the last section, the old man who owns the hotel. So the landlord and his wife, the old lady who had received Jonathan, who had welcomed him when he came to the hotel, they looked at each other in a frightened sort of way. They're very afraid. And the landlord mumbled. To mumble is to say something quietly. So the landlord mumbled that the money, by which he means the money for Jonathan's ticket in the carriage, the money had been sent in a letter, and that was all he knew. So he won't say anything about who sent the money. He only knows it came in a letter. So Jonathan asked the landlord if he knew Count Dracula, if he could tell him anything of his castle. This means Count Dracula's castle, not the landlord's castle. Both he and his wife crossed themselves. So I don't know if you know this expression. A cross is an X shape or a plus shape like this. And to cross yourself is this gesture that they do in some churches. I was not raised Catholic, so I was not raised to do that. But you make this sign if you feel like you need some help from God. So they start to talk about Count Dracula. They don't say his name, and they make this sign. So they're very afraid of Count Dracula. They say they know nothing at all, and they simply refuse to speak further. If you refuse, you say, I will not do it. They just would not say any other words. Okay, so Jonathan, of course, he didn't like this very much, and he wanted to know more, but it was so near the time of starting, that means the time to start riding in the carriage, that he couldn't talk to anybody else. It was all very mysterious and not by any means comforting. That means not at all comforting, very mysterious, like a mystery, something you don't know the truth about. Right. So then next paragraph. By the way, if there is anything that I say in this chat that you have more questions about, you can always put a question in the chat. And in that case, I will be sure to answer it either right when I see it or in a later stream if you put it in later. All right, just before I was leaving, the old lady came up to my room and said in a hysterical way, "Must you go? Oh, young Herr, must you go?" She was in such an excited state that she seemed to have lost her grip of what German she knew, and mixed it all up with some other language, which I did not know at all. I was just able to follow her by asking many questions. When I told her that I must go at once and that I was engaged on important business, she asked again, "Do you know what day it is?" I answered that it was the 4th of May. She shook her head as she said again, "Oh yes, I know that, but do you know what day it is?" On my saying that I did not understand, she went on, "It is the eve of St. George's Day. Do you not know that tonight, when the clock strikes midnight, all the evil things in the world will have full sway? Do you not know, do you know where you are going and what you are going to? She was in such evident distress that I tried to comfort her, but without effect. Finally, she went down on her knees and implored me not to go, at least to wait a day or two before starting. Okay, so let's look at these two paragraphs here. I'm going to change this from the red. I don't like this color. Okay. All right, so the old lady, down. My cat is here to visit. All right, so Jonathan is about to leave. He's about to go and get on the carriage to travel to Dracula's castle. But before he can start, the old lady, who is the owner or the co-owner of the inn, she comes to his hotel room. She says in a hysterical way, "Must you go?" Hysterical is like you're so worried and upset that you're a little bit crazy. So she's so upset and she's so scared about what might happen to Jonathan that she is hysterical. And she says, "Must you go, oh young Herr," which in German, of course, is Sir Herr. Young Herr, must you go? She was in such an excited state. Excited here does not mean happy, it means upset. She was so upset that she seemed to have lost her grip of, that means she forgot what German she knew. The old lady did not know very much German. She was not a German person, but she knew a little bit. But when you're very excited, sometimes you forget things. And so she had lost her grip of what German she knew and mixed it all up with some other language which I did not know at all. So Jonathan cannot understand what this lady is saying. I was just able to follow her. Follow here means understand, not walk after her. I was just able to follow her by asking many questions. When I told her that I must go at once and that I was engaged on, that means busy with, he was busy with important business. What is this? Excuse me. She asked again, "Do you know what day it is?" And so we learned that in this country, in this place, they believe that St. George's Day, or the 4th of May, the 5th of May, excuse me. So St. George's Day is a holiday in May, and on this holiday, you do all kinds of church things, right? So St. George is a Christian saint. He's famous for killing a dragon. But it's not St. George's Day, but it is the eve of St. George's Day. All right. It is the eve of St. George's Day. So eve means evening. And you might have seen this before. We often talk about some holidays with this name. You can talk about New Year's Eve. You can talk about All Hallows Eve. All Hallows Eve you might not know, but this is the original name of Halloween. All right, kids, I'm so sorry. I think that I might have my internet connection and my stream speed is so fast, so slow right now. I think I'm glitching more than I'm actually speaking. I don't know. Christmas Eve. So... but if we say it's the eve of something, oh, for God's sake. Let me try something. open this white rectangle. We're going to open this image in a new tag. Excuse me, please don't copyright strike me on this image of a white rectangle. And let's write on it. Okay, so if we say that it is the eve of some day, we mean that it is the night before. So it is the eve of St. George's Day. And specifically, May 4th, I'm American, I read it like that. May 4th is the eve of St. George's Day. That means that St. George's Day is on May 5th, because the night before St. George's Day is May 4th. And I think that in many European countries, they celebrate this holiday now. There's a holiday called Walpurgisnacht. It's a little bit before, but people celebrate this holiday by dressing up in scary costumes and pretending that they're burning witches, right? It's a holiday when people thought that lots of evil things could happen. And it seems that the eve of St. George's Day is a few days later, but it's a similar kind of holiday. So this old lady is really scared because, number one, this is a really bad day to travel, right? It's the night when she says all the evil things in the world will have full sway. Specifically tonight, when the clock strikes midnight, which, as we know, probably is 12 o'clock a.m., midnight. At midnight tonight, on the eve of St. George's Day, evil in the world will have full sway. Full sway means full power. What is going on? I need a proper mouse. I'm using a trackpad. It's not ideal. To have full sway is to have total power. Oh my god, I've lost my Dracula tab. What is happening? I feel like I'm like an old lady right now. That's my level of internet skills. Okay. Let me open up my white rectangle again. Come on now. Perfect. Also perfect. There we go. Okay. So, I'll change my color. Okay. So once again, to have full sway is to have total power. So this old lady says you can't go traveling tonight because at midnight tonight, power will be lost. So she says, do you know where you are going and what you are going to? So he knows where he's going, right? He's going to Castle Dracula specifically, but maybe he doesn't know what he's going to because he thinks that he is just on a business trip. He does not realize he's going to meet the world's most evil vampire. And of course, the reader doesn't know this either because this was a very early vampire novel, and so probably a lot of people would not know what exactly is going to happen in this story. Okay. So the old lady was very upset by Jonathan wanting to go and visit this castle that is so evil. And it says she was in such evident distress that I tried to comfort her, but without right. here. Okay, there we go. So distress is when you're very, very, very upset. And she was in evident distress, so it's very clear that she was upset. I can see that my webcam has just stopped working. Very flattering picture of me right there. Sorry about that. So she was in terrible distress. She was very, very, very upset. I know. Oh, you were the one who was watching. Yeah, I know the camera's frozen. So there's nothing I can do. Do I just unplug it? Let's try that. Yeah, I've got a little bit of camera action here, maybe. Could you hear me? Like, could you hear me though? Okay. So voice is still working, so, okay. So she was in distress. She was very upset. Jonathan tried to comfort the old lady, but without effect. So he could not comfort her. He could not make her feel better. And so finally she went down on her knees. She implored him not to go. She said, please, 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 don't go. At least wait. Don't go on the eve of St. George's Day. Wait a day, wait 2 days. But he has business to do. So Jonathan says, it was all very ridiculous, but I did not feel comfortable. However, there was business to be done, and I could allow nothing to interfere with it. If something is ridiculous, it is crazy and stupid. And Jonathan says it was also crazy and also stupid, but even though it was very crazy and stupid for her to be so upset, he felt weird about going on this trip, but there was business to be done. Jonathan is here to do a job, and he could not let anything interrupt his business, so he had to just go. Okay. So he said, I tried to raise her up. Remember that the old lady is on her knees, down on her knees. Oh wait, that's probably not a good search on Google Images. She's kneeling, she's not standing. I don't want to see what I would find in the image results for that. He tried to raise her up. He tried to make the old lady stand up and said as gravely as I could, which means as seriously as he could, and said as gravely as I could that I thanked her, but my duty was imperative and that I must go. So his duty, his job was imperative. It was really, really important. So he's like, thank you so much. I'm happy that you're worried about me, but I just have to go. I cannot stay. Okay. So she then rose and dried her eyes, and taking a crucifix from her neck, offered it to me. So rose here is not the flower, but rose is the past tense of rise. Okay, today I rise. Yesterday I rose. So she stood up, she got on her feet, she dried her eyes because she had been crying, and then she took out a crucifix. A crucifix is a cross with usually a picture or a picture or a statue of Jesus on it, but some people use it just to mean a cross. So she's probably wearing a crucifix around her neck. So she takes a crucifix from her neck and she offers it to Jonathan. And Jonathan feels weird about this. Jonathan says, I did not know what to do, for as an English churchman, I have been taught to regard such things as in some measure idolatrous, and yet it seemed so ungracious to refuse an old lady meaning so well and in such a mind. So remember that Jonathan is from England and he is an English churchman. He is part of the Church of England, which is one of the biggest religions there. And in the Church of England, they don't really usually they would not wear something like this around their neck. That would be seen as strange. Idolatrous is an interesting word because idolatrous is from the word idol. And an idol, just one moment. An idol is a statue or a picture that you might worship. If you have seen Indiana Jones, the first movie, he's stealing a temple. I think. Let's see. Here we go. That's not a real one. Idol. It's kind of an English word for a statue of a god or a goddess. It's a little bit rude to talk about someone's religious art as an idol, but he was not super enlightened. And so he thinks, as a member of the Church of England, that to have a little statue of Jesus around your neck is idolatrous. It means that you worship or you pray to statues. And yet, which means but, it seems so ungracious. It seems very unkind. It's not nice to refuse an old lady meaning so well and in such a state of mind. Your state of mind is how you are thinking and feeling. And remember, this old lady is very, very upset. And so Jonathan thinks it would be very mean not to take this crucifix that she's giving him. She saw, I suppose, the doubt in my face, for she put the rosary round my neck and said, "For your mother's sake," and went out of the room. A rosary is actually something different from a crucifix. If you are from a Catholic culture, you are familiar with a rosary, not the same as a crucifix, although maybe some rosaries would have a crucifix on it here. I guess that this is probably something like what she was wearing on her neck. And so the lady sees the doubt on Jonathan's face. If you doubt something, you're not sure about it, you don't quite believe it. And so she doesn't try to give it to him, she just puts it around Jonathan's neck. She says, "For your mother's sake," which means I am doing this for your mother. She doesn't know Jonathan's mother. She's just saying, I'm a mother, and I know that your mother must be very, very worried about you, and your mother would be very sad because you are in danger. And so because I'm a mother, I will help you. So she puts the rosary around his neck. For your mother's sake, she says, and she leaves him to whatever he's going to do. I am writing up this part of the diary whilst I am waiting for the coach, which of course is late, and the crucifix is still round my neck. Whether it is the old lady's fear, or the many ghostly traditions of this place, or the crucifix itself, I do not know, but I am not feeling nearly as easy in my mind as usual. If this book should ever reach Mina before I do, let it bring my goodbye. Here comes the coach. Remember, we are reading Jonathan's diary. This is a book that he writes in every day to tell about the things that he was doing. And the last day from last night, where he went to sleep. Now he is that coach slow again, that's not super good. Okay, and he's still wearing the crucifix. He doesn't believe that it's good, really. He doesn't think this has any power, but he's not going to take it off. He's feeling a little bit superstitious. Superstitious, come on now. If you are superstitious, you mean you believe in luck and magic. So maybe I think that a black cat is unlucky, or the number 13 is unlucky, or something like that. Jonathan is superstitious. Not usually, but he's feeling superstitious just because it has been such a strange day, and it's such a strange couple of days. So he has some different reasons to feel strange, right? He says maybe, so whether it is, so maybe it is, I don't know if it is the old lady's fear. I don't know if it is the many ghostly traditions of the place, so the stories that people tell in this part of Europe, or the crucifix, but I am not feeling nearly as easy in my mind as usual. He's feeling more worried. He's feeling more scared than he would usually feel. And here we have the first sign that Jonathan thinks he might be in danger. I think he's sort of joking a little bit here. He doesn't know yet that he really is in danger, but he's hinting that it could be possible. He says, if this book should ever reach Mina before I do, let it bring my goodbye. So the word should, you probably know it as something that you need to do, right? Like we would say, I should go to the store. That means I need to go to the store, or I should get to bed. I should go to sleep. But when we combine should with if, like if this should happen, then we basically mean if this happens. It's a longer and more formal way to say it. So he's imagining something that could possibly happen, even though it probably won't. He says, if this book should ever reach Mina before I do, that means if Mina ever gets this diary and she doesn't see me, let it bring my goodbye. So basically he's saying, Mina, if you are reading this, goodbye. He's saying, if you're reading this, something happened and I have died. So Jonathan is at least starting to see that the old lady might be right. He might be in danger. All right, and now we come to the 5th of May. Okay, so the 5th of May is the day after the eve of St. George, right? So the 5th of May is St. George's Day. And we know that Jonathan was traveling to the castle on the 4th of May, which was the eve of St. George's Day. So we know that he is writing this the next day. So this is tomorrow, and he's going to tell us what happened to him on that long ride to Dracula's castle. He says, the castle. That means this is where he is when he's writing this. 5th of May, the castle. The gray of the morning has passed, and the sun is high over the distant horizon, which seems jagged, whether with trees or hills I know not, for it is so far off that big things and little are mixed. Okay, the gray of the morning has passed. Sometimes in the morning the sky is a little bit gray and cloudy, and he's saying that that time is over. So it's a little bit late, right? The sun is high over the distant horizon. If you have ever seen this word horizontal. Oh my God, what? Stop, please. Why did this happen? I don't know. Let's try one more time to open my little whiteboard here. Okay, so the word horizontal means going from one side to the other, from left to right, like this. And so the horizon is that line when you look away from you and you see the earth far away. Maybe you can see the sun going up or down on the horizon. It's the farthest thing that you can see. So Jonathan is in a place where he can see very, very far away. He can see to the horizon. The sun is high over the distant horizon, which seems jagged. Jagged means not straight. It means it goes up and down like mountains. It seems jagged, whether with trees or hills, I know not, for it is so far off that big things and little are mixed. I am not sleepy, and as I am not to be called till I am awake, naturally I write till sleep comes. So Jonathan is a guest, and his host, the host is the person who owns the house where he is staying. The host has said that Jonathan should just sleep until he wakes up, right? He is not to be called till he is awake, so he should just sleep until he is done sleeping, and then he can get up and have some breakfast or something. All right, so, but he has not gone to sleep yet. He says, I'm not sleepy, and so naturally I write till sleep comes. So Jonathan has been awake all night, and he's writing in his diary he's trying to go to sleep. There are many odd things to be put down. To put down in this case means to write down in his book. There are many odd things to put down, and lest who reads them may fancy that I dined too well before I left Bistritz, let me put down my dinner exactly. So this is a little funny. He uses the word lest. Lest means in case. So just in case this happens, if this might happen, not left, excuse me, lest, in case. So for example, I brought some extra money lest I lose my wallet. So in case I lose my wallet, I bring some extra money that I can use later. So he says, lest who reads them, lest the person who reads these things I'm writing may fancy or may think or may imagine that I dined too well before I left Bistritz. To dine is to eat dinner. So he's saying, I'm going to write down a lot of things that are very strange, and I think it's possible that whoever reads these things might think that I just had a very fancy, spicy dinner before I left and I had some strange dreams. That's not true, he says. So I'm going to tell you exactly what I ate for dinner so that you know that I didn't just have a nightmare from bad food. He says, I dined on what they call robber steak, bits of bacon, onion, and beef, seasoned with red pepper, and strung on sticks, and roasted over the fire in simple style of the London cat's meat. We're not talking about real cats. We're talking about a dish, a food that people in London eat that they call cat's meat as a joke because it looks like cat food. We're talking about meat kebabs, basically. So we're talking about sticks with meat that has been grilled. Being from London, Jonathan, he probably didn't eat that much because he's probably a pretty rich, not rich, he's not rich, but you know, he's from a middle class family probably, so he doesn't eat street food like this very much. So he says, I dined on what they call robber steak. That means like meat for a poor person. I wonder if they have a picture of that. Do we still use this phrase? I've never heard it outside of, so I wouldn't throw that too much into your English conversation. All of the pictures are people trying to cook recipes from Dracula. Alright, so he ate this for dinner. The wine was golden mediash, which produces, or which makes, a queer, remember queer just means strange, it doesn't mean anything else, which produces a queer sting on the tongue, which is, however, not disagreeable. So he had robber steak, he had wine. I've never heard of golden mediash. It's a kind of wine with, I guess, a sharp flavor. Or maybe it's not wine at all. He said, I had only a couple of glasses of this and nothing else. Remember, a couple means like 2 or maybe 3. So he's like, look, I wasn't drunk. I didn't eat a crazy dinner. I just had a little bit of meat and 2 or 3 glasses of wine. I'm not crazy. I didn't dream this. I'm not making it up. Please believe me. Okay. When I got on the driver had not taken his seat, and I saw him talking to the landlady. So the coach that Jonathan was traveling on would have stopped at an inn to get some dinner, but the driver is not ready to go yet. So Jonathan is watching their conversation. They were evidently talking of me, for every now and then they looked at me, and some of the people who were sitting on the bench outside the door came and listened, and then looked at me, most of them pityingly. I could hear a lot of words often repeated, queer words, for there were many nationalities in the crowd, so I quietly got my polyglot dictionary from my bag and looked them out. So Jonathan is on his travel. he's traveling through the mountains to Dracula's castle. And the coach, the carriage, right? It's the diligence coach. The coach has stopped at an inn or at a restaurant for everybody to eat their dinner. And before the coach stops going again, the driver of this coach is talking to the hotel owner. And they are talking about Jonathan specifically. They were talking of or talking about me. Every now and then, that means every few minutes, like a little bit here, a little bit there, every now and then they looked at me. So there were some people who were sitting by the hotel. They started to listen to this conversation. And as they were listening to the conversation, they started to look at Jonathan. And most of them were looking pityingly at Jonathan. You might have seen the word pity before, right? To pity someone is to feel sad for someone who's in a bad situation. Pity. Excuse me. To pity someone is to feel sorry for someone. So maybe, oh, he lost his job and then his girlfriend, and then his girlfriend dumped him. I pity him. I feel so sorry for him. This means these people think something really bad is going to happen to Jonathan soon. But, of course, he doesn't know what they're saying. He says, I could hear a lot of words often repeated, and they're strange words, they're queer words, but he doesn't know them because he only knows English and a little bit of German, so he quietly gets his polyglot dictionary from his bag. A dictionary, you probably know, is a book that tells you what words mean. Polyglot, poly means many, and glot means like language or words, right? Polyglot means speaking many different languages. So Jonathan has a special dictionary that tells him words in many different languages. I don't know if this is a thing. A polyglot dictionary? It sounds useful. It sounds like it must be a pretty big book. Polyglot dictionary. I've never seen one before. I've only seen a 7-language dictionary. I guess it's a thing. Okay, so he looks up the words that the people are saying, and here's what they say. I must say that they, by they he means the words, not the people. I must say they were not cheering to me, for amongst them were Ordog, Satan, Pokol, hell, Stregoika, witch, Vrolik, and Vulkoslak, both mean the same thing, one being Slovak and the other Serbian for something that is either werewolf or vampire. Memorandum, remember this means a note to self. Memorandum, I must ask the Count about this superstitions, which is very funny, right? So the people are talking about all these evil creatures that Jonathan will probably see at the castle. And Jonathan says, oh, that's so strange. I must ask Count Dracula to tell me about these strange stories about devils and vampires and things. He doesn't know that it's very ironic, but we the readers can guess that. He's going to be surprised later. When we started, the crowd round the inn door, which had by this time swelled to a considerable size, all made the sign of the cross and pointed 2 fingers towards me. So when we started, he means when the carriage started driving, right? The crowd of people, the people by the hotel, and it says that the crowd of people had swelled to a considerable size. To swell is to get bigger. So more and more and more people are listening to this conversation about Dracula and Jonathan. And when the driver gets back in the carriage, all of them, they do that thing. I can't do it. They do this thing again, and then they point at Jonathan like, well, God save you because you're going to need it. All right. With some difficulty, I got a fellow passenger to tell me what they meant. He would not answer at first, but on learning that I was English, he explained that it was a charm or guard against the evil eye. So with some difficulty, that means that it was a little bit difficult for him to get this other passenger, a fellow passenger is a passenger on the same carriage. He tried to get this other passenger to talk to him, but it was a little difficult. He did it with some difficulty. The passenger didn't want to talk to him at first, and then he says, "Oh, you're English, you don't know anything." And so he says it's just a good luck charm. It's a guard against the evil eye. Depending on your home culture, you might know what the evil eye means. The evil eye is sort of a curse. It's a bad luck spell, or just, some evil magic that you can do to a person just by looking at them. And these people, they think that Jonathan is in danger, right? So they make this sign so that he can be protected. But it might be enough or it might not, right? This was not very pleasant for me, just starting for an unknown place to meet an unknown man. But everyone seemed so kind-hearted and so sorrowful and so sympathetic that I could not but be touched. So this, he means that knowing that everybody thinks he needs protection, this was not very pleasant for me. Jonathan, he doesn't like this feeling. Remember, he doesn't know where he's going, so the place is unknown. He doesn't know the person he will meet, so that person is unknown. He's going to a strange place to meet a stranger. But he says the people are kind-hearted, so they're very nice people. They're sorrowful. This, you might know the word from the word sorry. And the meaning of sorry actually means sad, right? So if you're sorrowful, you're feeling very sad about someone. So the people are like, oh no. It's almost as if Jonathan were about to die, right? And so sympathetic. Sympathetic means you're very kind to someone and you understand their feelings. You try to make them feel better. You're kind and helpful. So these people are really, really nice people, and they feel really, really, really sad for Jonathan, and they all want him to be okay. He says, I could not but be touched. This is kind of an expression we don't always see in English. I can't but blah, blah, blah. Like, for example, you might say, I can't but think something is wrong here. So that means I have no choice. I have to think this, right? I could not avoid to think this. So he says, I could not but be touched. If you are touched, that means you feel happy and grateful, and you have a strong feeling about what these people did. He said they were so kind that I could not but be touched. There was no choice. I had to feel happy. Caring for me so much. Okay. Let's do the last two paragraphs and then we'll stop for today, I think. All right. I shall never forget the of the figure of rich green of the will its future. There we go. Never forget the last glimpse. You see something only very quickly. So he looks out to see the inn yard, the place outside the hotel where people are staying. Inn yard. So it's a little open space where people can stand or they can get into their carriages. So he'll never forget seeing all of those picturesque figures, which we know from last time. Picturesque means very unusual and interesting, like a picture. The figures are the people, right? The shapes of those people, all crossing themselves as they stand around the wide archway. An archway is a doorway that's shaped like this, right? And inside the archway, we see lots of trees, oleander trees and orange trees. And it's interesting because an oleander is actually a poisonous plant, but it's also just grown because it's very beautiful. So it could be that Jonathan Harker is giving us a hint that he's in danger, because oleanders are very, very dangerous. They can definitely kill people if the wrong thing happens. But oleander and orange trees, you know, they just look for orange. I think that he's just trying to show us what this hotel looks like. Okay, and then the last paragraph for today. Then our driver, whose wide linen drawers covered the whole front of the box seat, gotsa they call them, cracked his big whip over his 4 small horses, which ran abreast, and we set off on our journey. Okay, our driver. So drawers, nowadays we use to call them underpants, but he probably just means some big trousers like this. Linen is that very soft fabric that we like to make sheets and underclothing out of. Linen drawers are very big, so the driver is wearing big trousers called gotsa. Can we find a picture? Gotsa. I don't think we can. I don't think that's right. Gotsa trousers. There we go. Okay, I guess that's what it looks like. We'll guess that's what he means. So he cracks his big whip, right? A whip is what the driver of the carriage would use to scare the horses, or at least to tell them to get going. So he makes a loud sound with his big whip, and then the 4 little horses, the 4 horses are running abreast. Abreast doesn't mean anything about your body, but abreast means they're running all together next to each other. So 4 horses abreast. Would look blank white screen. This, right? They're all running together, and then on they go to the castle. Alright guys, so we haven't quite met Count Dracula yet, but I believe that we will meet him in the next section. So thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next week at the same time, hopefully with a better connection. Have a good week. Trying to end the stream. Goodbye.